Hello from Ewood Park, where it's another win for Hull City, 4 in a row for the first time in God knows how many years, and they're up to third in the Championship. But my God, it was a hard watch. Sergei Yakurovich has just been in this media room and said to me his eyes were bleeding and that he certainly wouldn't want to watch it again. But little really matters, because all that does matter is that Hull City have won by a goal to nil. That goal came 9 minutes from time, and Koumas, off the bench just 4 minutes earlier, scored the winner with arguably the one bit of quality in the entire game. Lovely ball from Amir to Carl Joseph, who came on with Koumas, and Joseph played it through to Koumas, one touch finish, and in front of 3,000 away supporters who, to be fair, you know, that was a tough watch. It was a tough watch from the press box above me where I'm sat now. It was probably an even tougher watch behind the goal, because City were really poor today. Defended very well. I'll say that. They defended really well. But in possession, they were poor. They never really created anything of note in the game. They couldn't keep the ball. They kept giving it away. They were disjointed. You would if you didn't know anything and you turned up today and you'd have said, you were told that one team was fourth in the league and the other team had not one win in 12 and were in the bottom three, you wouldn't have believed that it was the way round. It was, because City were really poor, really, as I say, disjointed, couldn't keep the ball. They lacked any real rhythm in the game, any momentum. But what they did do, and this is the sign of a very good team, is they weren't at the best, far from it, certainly compared to what they were at Preston, just a few miles up the road from here, last Tuesday night. They stuck in the game. They were gritty. They were determined. Yes, they created very little going forward, but they didn't concede anything at the back end. And as we said all season, when they were conceding so many goals, you know, when you're not at it, you're not playing well. If you can keep the back door closed, you've always got a chance. You'll always create something. And when you can bring on Carl Joseph, you can bring on, obviously, Koumas, Kieran Dowell, you know, you would hope that level of quality, you're going to get something. Kieran Dowell should have scored. Lovely ball to the back post. Hirakawa headed it down, and Dowell running in, 6 yards, 7 yards, centre of goal, spooned it up and out and into the away fans. And you're kind of thinking that was a huge chance at that moment in the second half. But the moment came, and they took it, and then they saw out the final 10 minutes or so of normal time, and then 7 or 8 minutes of added time with relative ease after that. And obviously you knew, as soon as we knew before the game, that given Blackburn's position, given the frustration the fans have got here with their ownership, with the team, the manager, the run that they're on, if you could get the first goal, it would make your life so much easier. Well, they had to wait for it, but when that first goal came, it settled everything down. They looked really comfortable at that point. They could play with a bit of confidence. They should have gone 2-0 up. Carl Joseph, lovely ball from Koumas, through one-on-one, and he forced a good save from the goalkeeper. But in reality, I think Kyle would feel he should have scored and made it 2-0 and settled the game and made injury time a complete foregone conclusion. But, as I said before, good teams win in different ways, and we've seen over the last 29 games that they can win in different ways. They're not always going to be at their best, and they were fantastic at Preston and they won it comfortably. They were very good in that first half at times against Swansea, had to back to the wall a bit in the second half, found a way. At this stage of the season, you're coming out of January, you know, it's been a long period since the last international break in November. You've got a lot of injuries. You've got players that aren't fully fit coming back into the team, that haven't played a lot of games. John Lundstrom was the one change today, hasn't started a game since early October when he did his, what did he do, his calf or something against Sheffield United, way back in October. You know, Galhart's still coming back to full fitness. Firmino is still finding his feet. There's a lot of players in there that haven't played a huge amount of football, so perhaps it's understandable. On the flip side, the likes of Regan Slater and Louis Coyle, they've played, Egan, Charlie Hughes, played an awful lot of football through Christmas and into the new year. So, you know, yes, I know they've not played since last week, but it does catch up with you. So, you know, as I say, it's the Championship. This was never going to be, this is never going to be straightforward. A bit like at Sheffield Wednesday, you're coming away from home against a team that are struggling. The pressure's on you. Everybody expects you to go and wipe the floor with them. And we've all seen enough of the Championship. We know that it doesn't work like that all the time, and you've just got to find a way. And boy, did they find a way. And Koumas' finish was absolutely brilliant. The run, the touch, and the finish. Sean McLaughlin got booked in the aftermath because he felt it was offside. I've only seen one replay, and it didn't look offside to me, but whatever. I mean, they should have had Todd Cantwell sent off in the first half. Crude kick on Ollie McBurney. He only got booked after the lines. The referee didn't see it, I don't think. The linesman on the far side saw it, pulled it back. The referee gave a free kick and he booked Cantwell. He should have been sent off, and Jurkovic was unhappy. Understandable as well to see why Ollie McBurney was so enraged, running over to remonstrate with the official on the far side, because Cantwell had a cheap shot at him. The ball was nowhere near. And yeah, that should have been a red card in the first half. So, but look, the game, we could forget the game, really. The game, what happened in the 80 minutes preceding it doesn't really matter, because they've won the game. And at any point in the season, it's all about winning the game, isn't it? But crucially, at this stage of the season, it's about finding wins. So the results have kind of gone for them in many ways. Ipswich were losing at home to Preston, needed a late equaliser, so they get a point, but City go above Ipswich into third place, 2 points above Ipswich now. Crucially, there's a big gap. There's an 8-point gap to Derby in 7th, but the top two are only 5. Middlesbrough have won again, they're flying. But Coventry in freefall, lost at Queen's Park Rangers, having led, I think, at Loftus Road. Should City, and it's a big if, you take nothing for granted, of course, if City beat Watford in the game in hand at the MKM Stadium on Tuesday night, Hull City will not only open up an 11-point gap to Derby in 7th, the exit of the playoffs, but they'll be just 2 points away from Coventry, who are top. Borough and Coventry both locked on 58 points. City back on 53. Game in hand on both of those. So they would go on to 56. Just 2 points off. It's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing turnaround. 4 wins on the spin. 8 wins at home, 8 wins away from home. Incredible. And I dare say that Sergei he will be nominated for Manager of the Month, and having missed out on it on the 2 previous occasions, I would be amazed if he doesn't get Manager of the Month third time of asking. Right, before I get kicked out of Ewood Park and ahead of a long journey home, let me tackle some questions. Of course, we've got the transfer window that closes on Monday night at 7 o'clock. We will be with Sergei Jurkovic. He's tried to fob me off with Dean Holden, as often Dean does the midweek pre-match presses, but no, we've strong-armed him, and he's going to be doing the pre-match interview on Monday. So we will be at the training ground on deadline day. So we'll get into deadline day in just a moment, but let's tackle some of your questions before the doors close at Ewood Park this evening. Liam says, win on Tuesday and we're 2 points off the top. Cov play Borough fairly soon. We could be in a really strong position. Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we've got Coventry in the not too distant future. Watford at home. And funny enough, since the game that should have been on the 4th of January at the MKM, the game that was called off, both teams, I think we were separated by a point, although there's now a 10-point gap. Watford are in freefall, lost again today at home to Swansea, had a key player sent off, ridiculous sending off late on. All is not well there. So, that's a very different type of game now than it would have been on the 4th of January. So, look, like I say, it's there to be won. That's it. They've got 4 home games, well, 5 if you include Chelsea, but 4 home games on the spin now, including coming up at the end of February, Derby County, who, if you'd have watched that game, you'll know how much it pains me to say this, but they were incredible last night. That was one of the best performances in the Championship I've seen this season away from home. They've got as good a away record as Hull City, but they were brilliant last night. So, but there's some good, a couple of good games. Bristol City aren't great. They were awful last night. They come up next weekend. Obviously, Hirakawa can't play, but he's not at Bristol City. They've lost Mehmeti, 1 or 2 others. They didn't. They were a mess. And then you've got QPR, who you just never know what you're going to get with QPR. But that Watford game is massive. If they can find a way to win, and we're at the stage of the season now where, fancy football, you'd love to play champagne football like we did at Preston all the time, but it's now about getting results, because they're in that top 4, they're locked in that top 4, and it's a race. If they can get that win on Tuesday night, they're firmly in the. I mean, even now, 5 points off top with 15, 16 games to go, whatever it is, they're in the race for automatic promotion. They will be firmly in that race if they can beat Watford and go 2 points behind. Who knows? And the way things are going for City, anything's possible. Liam, hopefully that answers your question. Lee, lots of stray passes. Yeah, they just, as I said before, Lee, with the ball today, they were in absolute shambles. They had a couple of good. They did have a couple of good chances early on. They started the game really well. I thought they just lost their way. They just couldn't. I don't know what there was. You can't blame the pitch because the pitch was awful, but they were brilliant on an even worse pitch at Preston last Tuesday. So the pitch didn't help, but they lacked the intensity. They lacked rhythm. They didn't play well. And that sometimes that happens over a 46-game season. You can't play well every week. And it's about finding a way, and they found a way. And I mean, nobody really. If you just said at the start of the game, you're not going to play particularly well, but you're going to come away with a 1-0 win, we'd have all snapped their hand off. So you kind of have to take it in isolation. There's been some very good games recently. There's been some not so good games recently, but they've still got, they've still won games. That's now 4 in a row since losing on New Year's Day. You can't ask for much more than that. Christian, too many bad touches and passing today, but still a result. Carl Joseph, why didn't he dink it? Yeah, as I said, just answer that question for Lee, really, Christian. They were poor on the first touch, was like the second touch. They were just really poor. But what I would say is they defended very, very well. The back five, I thought, from Awo across to Louis Coyle, the goalkeeper, when he was needed, he didn't have a huge amount to do either, really. But they defended their box fairly well. There were a lot of crosses. Blackburn put an awful lot of crosses in the penalty area, and they defended it really well. There was not too many moments where you were concerned. They got more of a grip of Cantwell in the second half, who shouldn't have been on the pitch, as I say. But yeah, look, you can't play well every week. There are different types of ways to win games, and don't forget Blackburn are scrapping for their lives as well. So yeah, they've won the game, and that's all we take from it. John, surely time to start you, especially with him being ineligible next Saturday, of course, against his parent club, Bristol City. Maybe. I thought Liam Miller really struggled today. Defensively, he was a bit hit and miss. There was kind of one moment where he did really well first half to bring the ball out of his own penalty area. Then he tried a flick on the halfway line, lost it, and suddenly Famewo he had two bearing down on him. I thought he struggled. He did really well in another occasion to bring the ball out from a corner, and he paced the length of the pitch to get towards the Blackburn area and have a shot, and it was a muffled shot, and then it got blocked. But I thought he looked frustrated, Miller. He cut frustrated. There was lots of shaking his head and looking down at the floor, and I think he felt this was a big opportunity for him with Hirakawa coming in, with Koumas coming in as well, and he didn't really. He didn't deliver a really good performance. But again, I'm a big fan of Liam Miller, and I will say this again, that he's coming back from an ACL injury. He's coming back from his big hamstring. He's going to have peaks and troughs. He's going to have good games. He's going to have bad games. And today was a relatively poor game by his standards. But, it's okay. It can happen. You can allow that. And you've got Koumas, who came on with a point to prove. And I saw a lot of Birmingham fans saying, he's not very good for us. Why are Hull City taking him? Well, it's pretty much his first touch was to steady himself, and his second was to stick it in the bottom corner. That's a heck of a finish. So, and he's coming into a team flying of confidence. Robert, subs change the game, and that's the benefit of your squad. We talk about finishers, don't we? The likes of, I thought Ewood was good when he came on. He used the ball really well defensively and going forward. Dowell, obviously, a couple of nice touches. Should have scored though. He will be thinking tonight on the bus journey back to Hull City, or back to the training ground. He'll be thinking he should have scored that. But again, he's not played a lot of football either, so it's worth bearing in mind. But yeah, you're right, and they've got. That bench is only going to get stronger, isn't it? Gilo's not too far away. Obviously, Collier will be included at some point over the next week or so. So they have got a lot of options. No Joe Landala today. Just selection. Nothing transfer-wise in that. David Akintola has got interest from Turkey, so he could go back. But the Turkish window doesn't close, I think, the 6th of January. I think so. I think that's either... Don't quote me on that. It's either Thursday or Friday of next week, so it's not like Akintola has to decide before 7 o'clock on Monday. But Akintola not in the squad today. He is one that could leave over the next few days. But as I say, that doesn't have to happen before Monday at 7 o'clock. If he goes, there won't be anybody coming in to replace him, because obviously they've signed Collier, they've signed Koumas. Brandon Williams is another one that could leave. We've been saying it for weeks. Those two in particular are the ones that could, the two primary ones that could leave over the next few days. But again, if Williams goes, there's nobody coming in to cover him. They need to free him up, or free squad space up. While I'm on the subject, we may as well do it now. The other one is John Egan. Jurkovic, there is interest in John Egan. Now, the club don't want him to go. The manager doesn't want him to go. Obviously, John Egan's played, he was brilliant today. He's been a key part of the season, and he's been massive for Charlie Hughes as well. The club, he's just obviously agreed his extension, his contract extension. He had an option year, which he wanted to take himself. So he's contracted until the end of next season. But it's up to him. He may well want to make that move. As I understand it, to another championship club. It remains to be seen whether that move happens. We'll have to wait and see. But if that will be one, I think, that goes to the deadline on Monday. If John Egan does go, I sense there would be a replacement coming in. I don't think, because Paddy McNair wasn't signed as a replacement for Shemi Ajayi, because Paddy McNair has been in talks with City for quite a long time, and that predates Ajayi's injury at AFCON a couple of Sundays ago. So I suspect, even with Famewo, young McCarthy, who was stripped and ready to come on for Charlie Hughes today, but Charlie was able to carry on, he's okay. I suspect they will go back into the market and try and bring in extra cover should Egan go. But as I say, it's not a foregone conclusion yet. It's been talked about for quite a few weeks. They don't want him to go. The manager wants him to stay. So it's with Egan, it's a watch this space. So hopefully that answers that question. Stephen, brilliant result, not great, but they're finding a way to win. And now a massive game on Tuesday. Win puts us 2 points behind the top two. Yeah, said that before. It's many ways to skin a cat, isn't there? And you can't play at this stage of the season. I'm saying the same thing. It's about getting results. And you come away, you keep a clean sheet, you find a way to win the game 1-0. Everybody goes away absolutely buzzing with that. So, and we all. Christopher says, goal was offside, so glad no VAR in the Championship. This is getting surreal. Admittedly, I've only seen one replay, and the angle that I saw it from, he looked onside, but I stand to be corrected if the other better replays say he was offside. That said, Campbell, if there was VAR, as Sergei would like to see, Chris, Campbell would have been sent off in the first half. So it's a different game. Suddenly City are playing against 10 men, their best player's not on the pitch, and who knows what would have happened. We might not have needed an 81st minute goal to win it, but alas, it doesn't really matter. I tell you, we played like a man down. I mean, had an awful game, giving the ball away. I actually thought I thought collectively in midfield they were poor in the first half. John Lundstrom looked like he'd been out for a long time. Regan, apart from one moment where he brilliantly won the ball outside their box to stop a counter-attack, then raced into the box and shot. Regan, his first touch was his second. But I thought they were better in the second half, and I thought Amir was much better in the second half, and his lovely cushion pass to Joseph, who fed Koumas, was very good. So, but like I say, I didn't think defensively. I thought they were very, very good. I thought the rest of the pitch they weren't great at all, but they found a way to win the game. Alistair, automatic promotion is on, and with that game in hand on Tuesday night, it could be just 2 points. They've got to go and do it though, and it sounds cruel and kind of like clinical, because they've just won again tonight or today, and they've won 4 in a row. But you're only as good as your next game, aren't you? Or as it goes in football. And if they lose on Tuesday night, everybody will be furious and say you've missed an opportunity to close the gap. So they've got, yes, fantastic win tonight. Now it's relentless, isn't it? You've got to go again on Tuesday night and go and beat Watford, who are in some kind of terrible form. But they'll have a point to prove. They'll probably be a bit furious about what happened before, when they felt the game should have. Well, they say they felt the game should have gone ahead on January the 4th, although I think the truth of that story is somewhere in the middle. But they say what they say. But no doubt the lights have gone off. That's probably a telling moment. But yeah, so they'll come with a point to prove it, I'm sure. Let me just see if I can flick them back on. No such luck. Right, we're in the dark anyway. A bit like Blackburn season, really. Steve, didn't get to watch the match. What do you make of Dow? Yeah, I thought he did okay when he came on. Again, not played a lot of football. Should have scored. Gilt-edged chance, volleyed it over the bar from Hughes. Lovely headed knockback. But he'll get better as the season, as the games wear on, and he gets to play more. He played, an hour, I think, of Rangers Cup game earlier in the month, and that was his first appearance, I think, since August. So he's not played a lot of football. He was injured. He was back end of November. I think he came back to fitness after his injury problem. So again, you've got to be a little bit patient with Collier. and with Dow, because they've not played a huge amount of football. But Koumas, it shows what happens when you're in the rhythm and you've been playing regularly and you come straight on the pitch and impact it. But they've got players coming back, as I say, and they can afford to be a bit more patient with Dow and Collier. Robert Poor in midfield. Brian, thoughts on Lundstrom? Is he ready? Look well off the pace. Yeah, I said that just a moment ago, Brian. I thought he looked like he'd been out. He'd not played his last 90 minutes was a 2-2 draw with Preston at the end of August, beginning of September. I think I've got that right. Or back end of September. Back end of September. And then he got injured, didn't he? He started against Sheffield United in the 1-0 win, I think 4th of October. And he went off quite early on, about 15 minutes, I think. So he's only had a couple of 20-minute cameos here and there. So he's going to... And that's a difficult game. Cold day, awful pitch against a team that's scrapping for it. Difficult game. I thought he looked off the pace. I thought he looked rusty. But again, he's another one that will benefit from getting an hour. He had an hour, I think it was, today. Getting an hour in the tank. So yeah. Simon from Tunbridge Wells says, well done City, hard 3 points, but we got them. Yeah, absolutely. Mike says, pity Joseph didn't dink the ball over the goalkeeper. Gilt-edged chance it was, but thankfully it didn't matter. But yes, he should have scored, and I'm sure Kyle would if he was here now, would say that. Stephen, any reason there was no Akintola? I think I've answered that already. There is interest in him, and he could move potentially before the window closes. Benjamin Amir needed swapping, he was flagging. I actually thought he played quite well in the second half. Peter worked so hard to win the ball back, but give it away so cheaply. Yeah, as I said before, without wishing to labour that point, on the ball they were terrible today. They were absolute rubbish. But, as I say, if you can play rubbish and you come away from home and win 1-0 and keep a clean sheet, it's not all that bad, is it? Chris, you and Koumas to start Tuesday? Possibly. I think he'll need to freshen it up, because that looked, for much of it, a tired performance until he made the changes, which made a difference. He gave them, bringing McBurney got no service again, but bringing on Dowell, obviously Koumas as well. I thought those changes really helped. I thought Matty Jacob made a difference as well, and that was nothing against Firmay, where I thought stuck at his job really well first half. But yeah, I thought Jacob was decent when he came on as well. So he's got options, and that's all you need. And you've got to rotate when you're playing a 3-game week. At this stage of the season, players are fatigued, they're tired, they've all got little knocks and niggles and stuff. So he is going to have to rotate. But it wouldn't surprise me on Tuesday night if he went Koumas for Miller, and maybe you for Gelhardt, because I thought Gelhardt looked a bit jaded today. A couple of nice moments, but again, he looked like a player that's been out for 6 or 7 weeks. But again, I keep saying it, he's got options, and that's the beauty of it. On Tuesday night against Watford, he could start you, and he could start Koumas, and if after an hour he needs to change it, he can then bring on a fully fresh Gelhardt and Miller. And we've seen Miller's impact off the bench as well. So, I think it's a really good place to be in. Let's see what else we've got before we go. Charlie, crikey, we're going up. I mean, it does feel like the stars are aligning. I mean, it's still early. We're only on the 31st of January, but I mean, they're on merit, aren't they? I keep saying it. What else have we got? Anyone going? Robert, I think I've covered that. Akintola could go. There's interest in John Egan, Brandon Williams. Apart from that, I mean, could Crystal Palace come in with a £50 million bid for Charlie Hughes? Possibly. Unlikely, but it's the final 24 hours of the window, or it's 48 hours to be precise, because it's 10 to 7. Strange things happen. So at this stage, they don't want to lose anybody, obviously. They don't want to lose John Egan, but that decision might be taken out of their hands. And the owner has always said that if a player comes to him and says, I want to leave, he won't stand in the way. If John Egan comes to Adjun in the next 48 hours and says, I want to go, he won't stand in his way. They'll pivot and have to get somebody. They've got players in mind. They'll try and bring in, or a player in mind they'll try and bring in. But I think rather than get caught up and be kid on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day even, and want the next present. I think they've signed 5 very, very good players, given the situation they're in under the embargo, the restrictions, which will be lifted, by the way, as of 7 o'clock on Monday night. The restrictions are lifted. So they, I think they've got their business done early. They've made 5 exceptionally good signings. I think if they'd have made those 5 signings, if they were traded normally, we'd have been very happy. The fact they can't pay a loan fee, I think, speaks to the work that Ajun, Mustafa Jarrod, Hodgie, all the guys at the club have done collectively, the manager as a collective, the scouts, Stuart, everybody at the club that have been able to bring those 5 players in, on top of what they did in the summer. They deserve a huge pat on the back, because they are some serious signings for any team in this league, let alone a team that are working under the conditions that they are working under. Harry, hopefully I've updated Egan there. It's a watch this space over the next couple of days. Mark, never always in it, but never totally out of it. Superb double sub. Well, that's the other thing as well, isn't it? I think a lot, the Blackburn guys were saying here that they saw McBurney and Gowhart go off and thought, well, that's them shutting up, taking a point. Well, Koumas comes on and scores the winner. Kyle creates the assist and then should score a second. So that's the beauty of City. If Gowhart and McBurney aren't scoring, or they need to freshen it up, or whatever the situation may be, he's brought 2 players off the bench, and they both have combined for the winning goal. I mean, from a manager's point of view, it's gold, isn't it? And as I said before, he's got to be a shoo-in for manager of the month for January. After that first game losing against Stoke, yes, I know the game against Watford was postponed, but when you look at the quality of the wins, away at Southampton, away at Preston, here today, beating Swansea, in the manner that they're doing it, I can't look past him. Jake says, one of the worst away ends that was so crammed with the separation to our own fans. I mean, it's mad when you've got a stand that holds 7,000, everybody's crammed into one place. But yeah, let's have a quick look. Sarah says, last season we would have been on the losing end of these types of games. Well, fully enough, you're absolutely right, Sarah. But last season they did win this game here, and Blackburn had an awful lot of chances, and you were walking away going, how the hell have Blackburn not won that game? They had so many chances. I remember Alfie Jones had an absolute barnstormer of a game here just after Christmas, just before New Year, back end of last December, 28th, 29th time, and we won 1-0. Ryan Longman scored the winning goal, didn't he? At that end as well. But Blackburn played well. Blackburn had a lot of the ball, but never really looked like scoring. If you think of the saves, I always judge chances on the quality of the save from the goalkeeper. And I look at the save that Pandor made, and I think, was he really tested? There was one in the first half where he had to dive and tip it round the post, but I still think that's a save he would expect to make. And there was one second half header from Ohashi at the back post, which he had to dive. It was back across goal, he had to dive. He sort of fumbled it, and there was a bit of a scramble, they cleared it. They were the only 2 saves I can really think off the top of my head of any note, and neither of them were, that's what he's there for. And I just don't think Blackburn created a huge amount of actual chances. Lots of crosses, lots of possession, side to side, but I thought they dealt with them relatively well. Anthony, any talk of surprise transfers out? Egan is still, Egan's got interest in the Championship, one of City's rivals, as I understand it. But I've covered Egan already, and for those that have been listening to my inane drivel for the last 25 minutes or so will know that I've already covered Egan, and probably not to go over it again. But we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of days. Josh says, you're a good team when you play poorly, but still get the 3 points. That's what champions do. Yes, Josh, I'm with you on that. Who knows? Lee, great away support. Yeah, tip my hat. 3,000 or so were here, made some noise, and that roar when the winning goal went in was incredible. I've got goosebumps thinking about it. It was incredible. Jake says, can we win the league? I mean, if they win on Tuesday, they're firmly in it. Why not? It'd take a brave person to say no, because the form they're in, their ability to win games when their back's against the wall, when they're not playing well, you wouldn't rule it out, would you? But there's a long way to go. The bigger thing is the gap to 7th. That's what you really want to be looking at. Is if you win Tuesday night, you've played 30 games, you've got 16 to go, and you've got an 11-point cushion. That is significant. You've got Derby to come. Yes, they're in great form away, but you've got Derby to come at home. You've got a couple of other teams in and around you to play as well. So it's firmly in their hands. And as I say, that whatever happens for the top 2 will take care of itself. The fact we're having that conversation for me is absolutely bonkers. But wow, we are where we are. But for me, it's the gap to the playoffs. You want to, first and foremost, you want to make sure you're in that top 6 come the end of the season. You want to make sure that come that last 3 or 4 games, that you've got yourself a cushion. You can, get Bellumi back. You can give him minutes. You want to create momentum for the playoffs if that's what you're in. Of course, you don't want to go into it losing the last 3 and then suddenly you've got to start again. Let's cross that bridge when we come. Let's not run before we can walk. Charlie, how was Koumas when he got on? Well, he scored the winning goal and almost created a second, so I'd say fairly good. Any good pubs on the River Trent for next season if Forest stay up? Steve, Nottingham's full of great watering holes. But yes, let's come back to that later in the season. I don't want to tempt fate. Mike says we missed Crooks in midfield. I would agree with that. I thought we really missed Crooks today massively, and losing him for the rest of the month, potentially the rest of the month, is really disappointing. But look, next man up, as you would say, and other players have got to step up, and Dow's might have the opportunity. But I certainly think that he'll want to freshen it up on Tuesday night. Matthew says, anyone else coming in? As far as I gather, it is what it is now. But if Egan goes, then they will need to bring somebody else in. So it hinges on that. And to be honest with you, I don't think they need to bring anybody else in. If it stays as it is, I'm fine with that. Because you don't want to bring too many players in that can upset what is an incredible team spirit, team situation that they've created. And you can, if you have too many players, that can damage it, because then you've got too many players sitting out, like Joe Landala, not involved in the squad today. Nothing to do with transfer, just they've got 6 loans. You can only name 5 in the squad. When Collier's fit, that goes up to 7. Suddenly 2 lone players are going to be sat in the stands. And when you've got players sat in the stands and not playing, that creates frustration and it can create problems if it's not dealt with in the proper way. Now, I trust implicitly Jurkovic to manage it, but equally, the players still want to play. Joe Landala will want to play. Whoever the other lone player is that's not going to be playing when Collier's fit is going to want to play, and that is something he's going to have to really carefully manage. So when I look at the squad, Gilo's coming back, Balumi potentially, for the back end of the season. You've got wide options. If Akintola stays, you've got Akintola and Dala, Miller, Koumas, Gauhart, who plays there. Through the middle, you've got Joff can play there. You've got McBurney, Carl Joseph, Koumas can go through the middle if need be. They've got options. Across the back, you've got Jacob, you've got Cody Drame coming back. He's not too far away. If Egan stays, you've got Egan, McNair, Hughes, Famewo. They've got 2 players in every position, pretty much. I know everybody loves signings, and this club has been historically addicted to signings. But I think you've got to be careful not to upset the squad balance, the squad harmony, just for the sake of bringing somebody else in. Coupled with the fact that you've got a real chance, the situation they're in, they've got a huge chance of winning promotion now, be that automatically or through the playoffs. There is that kind of, well, if we have that player, maybe he can help us get over the line. Maybe if we get 1 or 2 extra injuries, maybe he can help. So it's a really difficult balance. But for me, I think if the squad is as it is now on 7:01 on Monday night, I think we're all singing and dancing in the rain, because it'll probably rain. Robert, I've covered incomings already. Sarah says, glad we had a bad performance against Blackburn team rather than Middlesbrough. Well, we had a bad performance against Middlesbrough and then went there and won. So, but they are consistent. They are really consistent now, aren't they? And they're backing up all their. They keep backing up results. To win 4 in a row is something they've not done, I think, since Grant was in charge. The first season back in the Championship all those years ago. Michael, is there a podcast on Monday? There might be. We might do a version of one late on Monday night after the window's closed. But obviously, with Monday being deadline day, I'm interviewing Sergey at lunchtime or so. So we're going to struggle for time. But we'll probably do a quick recap of the window on Monday night, and then we'll have another one probably Wednesday or Thursday to look back at today's game and also the Watford game, and then look ahead to Bristol City. It's game after game after game. Rich. Comment there, rotating pairs of strikers today was important, agreed. Just quickly scroll through. Chris says, happy man representing City in America. I know you watch quite a lot, Chris, thank you. Lots of country fans around me. Have the wheels fallen off them? Well, let's wait and see. That's going to be an interesting game, isn't it? Liam, I've not been a fan of Lundstrom all season. Couple of half-decent games. I don't think he's been... flashes. But again, injury has absolutely curtailed it. Alistair, would you go... What a question this is. What would you rather go automatic or through the playoffs? 2 Wembley wins in 08 and 2016. If you can... It's a daft answer, I know. But if you can guarantee you're going to win at Wembley, you guys have experienced it twice. I've experienced it once with Forest a couple of years ago. You'd say Wembley every day of the week, because to have that day at Wembley, to win at Wembley in front of 36,000, of your own fans, have that day is amazing. And you would, if you can guarantee that you get that, you take that, I think. But also, winning the league, you have the fact that you've won the league, you've won the championship. You also have a couple of extra weeks for recruitment, which is really important. So I still think I'd go the security. It's probably a boring answer, but I'd still go security of top two. Because you can't, of course, guarantee what's going to happen in a playoff final. So, again, the fact we're having this very conversation is absolutely wild. Lee, sorry, I'm getting my dates confused, but yeah, you know what I mean. Right, I'm going to call it a day there, folks, because the lights have gone. The lights have gone off, and as Liam says, I've probably been locked in. It's 7 o'clock, and I've got to head home and then get everything written for Sunday and Monday. Right, that's it from here at Ewood Park, where Hull City have won for a 4th game in a row. They're up to 3rd in the championship with a 1-0 win, courtesy of Lewis Koumas. 4 minutes on the pitch, on his debut, scores in front of 3,000 jubilant Tigers in that away end. So 4 straight wins, City up to 3rd. They play their game in hand on Tuesday night at home to Watford. Win that, whisper it quietly, they'll be 2 points off Coventry, the leaders, with 16 games to go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. Of course, plenty to come from here. And of course, we'll have live coverage from 7 o'clock in the morning. Early start for me on Monday. We'll have, of course, we'll be right across everything on deadline day. The ins, the outs, any news, whatever happens, we'll have it. And of course, we will also be with the gaffer on Monday. So we'll be inside the City training ground on Monday, on deadline day, building up to that massive game at the MKM. Get down there if you can to see City take on Watford. Up the Tigers.